Hey fellow gamers, it's me, Mario. This time we're going to talk about getting faster, how to actually play faster. And let's start the stopwatch this time, since I don't want to go as long as last time. We're talking about getting faster, so I should try to get faster myself in the first place here. So let's talk about how to speed up your plays. It's not something that matters to all people. Like maybe some of you are already fast players. I don't know. But most people I know that are very into Euro games can be stuck in analysis paralysis from time to time. And it's something that I had to fight against a lot since I used to be a very slow player. And I still am. If you're watching my stream videos, you're going to see a lot of people like arguing with me and not insulting me, but just telling me that I should play faster. But I'm improving, and I improved a lot in real time, real life games. I have improved a bit on streaming, but while streaming, I also have to talk a lot, so that's why it can be a bit slower. So without further ado, let's go about think faster. So how can you how can your thought process become faster in a game? Well, the first thing is something that I think a lot of players don't do, but it's the easiest advice in the world. Just think in your opponent's turns. Like in some games, it's more difficult to do that because there's a lot of tactic involved, because there's a lot of, players interference. So, uh, if that's too high, it might be really hard to think in your opponent's turns because you don't know what you're going to do next. But in many games where the strategy is pretty strong, even if the interaction is high, you should still make plan A, B, and C. And while it's your opponent's turn, you can adapt a bit. You have the plan, and then the first player after you does something, and that's going to change what you can do. Then scrap the plan and think about the B plan. You should adapting while the other players are taking their actions. So you have to process what they're doing and fit that into your plan. It's not always easy, but it becomes easier the more you do it. And this is going to come up a lot in today's video. So the more you try to go faster, the better it's going to be in the long term. In the short term, as we're going to see, you're probably going to lose a bit more. Then have a strategy. Again, having a strong strategy in a game is pretty important. By strategy, I mean a long-term plan for your game. In some games, that's very important. Like in Great Western Trail, after you purchase some of your first workers, you should already have a strong plan for the late game. Of course, there are a lot of choices you're going to make during the game, but the strategy should be pretty clear to you from a certain point. I would say 1/3 of the game, probably. It's the same with Barrage and with many other strategic games, even though the player interaction might be really high. I think that a strategy is very important and it should be clear to you. It's not easy how to come up with a strategy. This is probably material for a whole other video another day, since we're already almost 4 minutes in. But having a strategy is important, and it's one of the things that should help you be faster. So having a strategy, thinking about your opponent's turns, and the last point is when stuck, act. This is true in life. I know a lot of friends that can be stuck in analysis paralysis even in their everyday life. And at some point, if you cannot process all the choices, or if you have like 3 or 4 choices, but you cannot decide which one of them is the best, it's time to stop trying to optimize and just go for something, do something. I know it seems hard at the beginning because you're going to feel a sense of loss. There are some players like me, and we are optimizers. We try to always take the most optimal part, while other players are happy enough with what seems to be the best. I like to analyze everything. So if you're like me, when you're stuck, you should just act. To other players, that might come naturally, but to me, it doesn't. So if you're like me, sometimes you just have to act. Then operate faster. This is about setting up your board, your assets, and everything you're fiddling with in a more rational way. Now, I know some players can play even if their board is a mess, but normally keeping your board and assets nice and tidy is going to help you a lot in determining what you can and what you cannot do. It doesn't mean that you have to pile up resources for the future actions, because this is going to also make you predictable. Um, but it matters a lot to keep your assets in a rational way so that you don't spend time try to understand how much you have. Then don't break your actions into many sub-actions. I see many players like thinking about something and they are doing part of an action, then maybe another part of an action. Not only this thing is bad because it's going to tell your opponents what you're going to do, but it's also bad for you because if you find yourself in a non-optimal choice, you have to retract everything back. So it's better to think first about the whole action you're going to take and then go through the moves. Doing half and half and jumping between each other all the time doesn't work that well, and it's also going to have you spend so much time. Then focus on a few important assets. In each and every game, after when you got some experience with them, there are only a few assets which are really important, and you should make sure that your opponents are in a certain position before taking your action. And when they are taking their action, you should adjust their position regarding these assets. It doesn't matter everything they're going to do. What I mean is, you don't have to reasset the board and reassess the board and everything that your opponent has done in the last turn. You just have to have a clear image of the board state of your board, of your opponent's boards, and then just adjust it a bit depending on what they're doing. So, like in Grandmaster Trade, the most important thing is where they are going to build and which heads they can get. In Barrage, the most important thing most of the times is which tile can you secure, and which positions on the board are most relevant and when to go for a production. So it's not always that clear, but there are a few things that are way more important than everything else, and these things are what you should focus on. If you want to go faster, to work faster, to play faster, you don't have to look at everything. I know that you like to do that, I like to do that, but try to start focusing on a few assets. Then it's going to come easier to you later on to add informations to that, like spreadsheet, mental spreadsheet and frame. But before anything else, you should try to focus on only a few of them. And then brace for impact. What I mean with that, it's that playing faster, if you're like me, it's going to be a challenge and a process. It's a challenge because you're challenging yourself. You always will have a push inside you that tells you to slow down and consider more choices and make more informed choices. And at some points in the game, at some key points, it's alright to do that. But most of the time, you should try to set up some routines, um, some shortcuts, mental shortcuts, and go for them. This is what people do most of the times in games. Build up some heuristics. Again, there's a video. It's going to talk about heuristics in board games, coming up in the future, I hope. But for now, just think that you're challenging yourself. So even if the results aren't great, it's a process. You'll become better as time goes by, and you're going to lose, hopefully, a bit more. It's something that I reconciled with. Like, made a I was struggling to play faster, so I actually made a pact with myself and I told myself, all right, my goal in this game is not just winning, it's trying to win, so not winning, but trying to win in a reasonable amount of time. And the reasonable amount of time is something that I set up, not my opponents. I mean, I have a lot of friends who play slower than me, so that depends. But it was a new challenge, and it should be as important as winning. So if you want to try and play faster, that should be your goal alongside with winning. It shouldn't be like a side goal that, yeah, I should try to play faster, but I really have to win. Because if you do so, yeah, maybe you can be a bit faster, but you're not going to improve much. While working under some big constraint, like I have to play faster, my play time should be this. You don't have to play with a stopwatch, of course. It's just that you have to be aware that you have to make choices in a reasonable amount of time. So if you think that you're thinking too much, it means that you've already been thinking for too long. So just act and do that each and every time. It's going to become more natural to you. Again, it's a process, and I think that people watching my streams are going to laugh now because they think that I might play still too slow, but I'm becoming better. And I think you can all become better by following these, like, I wouldn't say easy because they are really challenging few steps. All right, that's it. That's 10 minutes. See you next time. Mario's out.